Welcome to the walkthroughs. In fact, we have 4 walkthroughs back to back, right? So these are the exercises, right? And they are walkthroughs, or we call them walkthroughs primarily because I'm actually conducting the exercises with you. I'm walking you through them, okay? All right. So the very first one is we're going to inspect the installation documentation. It's extensive, it's accurate, and you should follow it, okay? The course is one thing. The following all the details and then reading through the nitty-gritty aspects of the documentation is important, especially if you, the customer that is, performs the installations, if you're on premise, in other words. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through the hardware requirements. We're going to talk about what are the operating systems that are supported. I can tell you right now it's Linux exclusively, different versions of Linux. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to inspect the steps to install the no-name platform, the on-premise version of the no-name platform, and then we're going to inspect the steps to perform the on-premise version of the remote engine. Okay. All right. So we don't need the slides anymore. The other thing I need is open a new tab and navigate to docs.nonamesecurity.com. That's where we need to go. Docs.nonamesecurity.com, and let me increase the font size a little bit. Interesting. I can increase there. I cannot increase on the bar. Right. So the other thing I'd like to mention is if you don't have an account, click sign up. You will be going through a form to create your account. Now the difference is, or the caveat is that you need to use an email with a domain that is whitelisted already, right? All customers, partners, potential customers, prospect that is, they should have all their domains whitelisted. Okay. All right. So let's log in. I already have an account, of course. And here we are. I want you to pay attention at the versions, right? 332, 333 beta. I have elevated permissions. That's why I'm able to see all the betas as well. 332 is the latest release, and the one we will be using is 328, long-term support. Okay. The LTS version is the version that we use for all courses because we release versions every 3 weeks. It takes me, I don't know, a few days to a week to update a single course, so you can imagine. All right, so let's go to version 328. There we are. And deployment is where we need to be. In fact, any one of these tiles, if you click, you will be taken to the same page, same menu, right? Different page, same menu, so you can navigate anywhere you like. But we can go to deployment because that's what we're interested in. All right, so a new tab renders. We are in under deployment. Okay, so we have the deployment overview where you will be given the integrated engine, the difference between integrated engine and remote engines. I'll talk about it a little bit, right? But you can read it here as well. Okay, the different deployment options in 3D graphs, deployment considerations, and so on. Okay, different traffic source, the supported traffic sources, and so on. Network appliances, pretty useful stuff, especially when you want to create your first integration, come and see what is supported, and so on. All right, so what I want us to do is I want us to navigate to the hardware requirements. And to do that, we have to go select the on-premises deployment, right? And of course, we're interested in the on-premises deployment server, right? Server, that's what we're interested in, okay? We have a menu item here too, so we can click it, up to you. All right, here we are. All right, so where are the hardware requirements? So here's the hardware section. Um, you get to see what are the requests per second based upon your VM sizing or whatever system you have with eight CPUs, 32 gigs of RAM. You can manage up to 7K of uh, request, 38 megabits per second. Okay, disk space 256 and so on. Right. If I scroll down, I will see uh, the supported um, OSs. Okay, Ubuntu all the way up to 2204. In fact, when we do our installation, we will be using 2204 LTS version as well. We support Ubuntu Minimal, Red Hat, CentOS, all different version of, I guess, hardened version of Red Hat, Oracle Linux, Amazon Linux. Okay, so these are uh, the different aspects. OSs. Okay. The other thing I would like to mention is the disk partitioning. You can have one large partition, which is what you and I will use in our class, or you can use the recommended setup, which breaks all of these partitions, all these folders into different partitions. Okay. Very important, which ports must be open, okay, and which domains must be available, okay, must be accessible from wherever you install the no-name platform. Okay, if you're air gapped, right, that means you have nothing open. Well, you're not going to be able to take advantage of whatever these different services support. For example, the IP reputation, for example, right? If we don't have access to this, we're not going to be able to report on the IP reputation when we discover an IP and so on, an attacker. There is installation permissions. Root is the permissions we need to use on our end. You need a license file. The license file is provisioned by me for training purposes, and I will be sending it to you at the same time I provision the VMs for the course. Okay, but this is provided, generally speaking, by customer success, right? By us, no name, right? Pre-sales, maybe customer success, right? It is provisioned long term, and it reflects your license agreement. Okay. Um, Installing. So what do you need? Well, you need access to the tarball, and you need access to a file called activation file, right? Activation file and the tarball is provided by us, right? We're going to give you the links. You're going to download them, okay? You have the ability to change the Nginx ports if you want to. We will not on our end. And then we need to run these commands, right? So we need to create a folder. Generally speaking, well, always you should be creating under OPT the no-name folder. And by the way, for those of you who do not know, /OPT is where you put third-party, where you install third-party pre-compiled packages. That's where you install them, which that's where you extract it. User local is when you install from source and you compile from source. /OPT, third-party applications. Okay, pre-compiled applications. And if you pay attention, we move the activation file. I'm going to explain the activation file when we get to the installation in the next exercise, right? And you run the no-name installer. And if you pay attention, all of these elements we're going to use as almost as is. The only thing we're not going to use is replacing the certificate, right? We're not going to replace the certificate. We're going to use the default certificate, that self-signed certificate. And also, replacing your certificate, it's easier done from the user interface, right? There is an area under security and compliance where you can replace your certificates and your keys and so on. The other thing that I haven't mentioned is, where is it? I forgot about it. It's the version of Docker. I think it's further up. Yep, note about Docker. I knew it is further up. So you must have minimally 201010. Okay, minimally version of Docker must be 201010. Right. Again, all the components are Docker containers, right? And so, all right, good. So we need to check all that stuff. Okay, so that's with respect to installing the no-name platform. Okay, and if I scroll down, there's different variations, different variations right here. By the way, uninstalling, very important, you may mess up. To uninstall, just go under /opt no name where you want tar and just run the uninstall.sh. Okay, uninstall.sh. And that should do it, right? That should do it. Okay, cool. So that's with respect to installing the no-name platform. Now, the next thing I like to talk about is installing the remote engine. And we have a different section right here. I'm going to select remote engine deployment from the left. And here's the different ways to install the remote engine. Server, Kubernetes, OVA. Server and OVA are very alike, in all honesty. Okay, Kubernetes is the different animal, and there is a different class that talks about installing that on a platform on a Kubernetes cluster and a remote engine on a Kubernetes cluster called NS302 Kubernetes no-name platform installation. Okay. Okay, good. So here's again the hardware requirements. And the other thing I would like to point out is this cloud savings calculator, right? Cloud savings calculator with respect to remote engines, right? Remote engines is going to help save some money, and here's a scenario, and here's the amount of data you will be communicating. You will be saving when you use from communicating when you use the remote engine. Very important. Okay. This is a specific scenario, though, right? Don't expect it to add your values and get something else. This is a specific, very specific example, but you'll get to understand it, right? All right, so we're gonna go next to the remote engine deployment and management, and pretty much you will see it's same exact thing, right? Same exact set of pages. We still have the node for Docker 201010, right? The supported OSs, very similar lineup. The port, very similar set of ports, right? And we must open outbound traffic to whatever your customer, wherever your no-name platform is, right? The rest of the no-name platform. The disk partitioning, very similar to before, and the installation instructions are very similar as well, right? The difference is that the installation now to provision a remote engine, you have to go through the user interface of the no-name platform to do so, and it will be the user interface that's going to give you access to the command line command that you will have to execute. Okay, it's slightly easier in my humble opinion. It's slightly easier. Okay, and so on. Cool. So that's with respect to the documentation. Again, I skimmed through it. There's a massive amount of data and details in here, so I'm not here to read it for you. That's all I'm saying. All right, cool. And with this, my good people, we concluded the very first exercise. Okay.